warm welcome to this special interview. My name is Anoop Verma. I am the editor of ETGovernment, which is a vertical of the Economic Times focused on covering government initiatives and policies. Today, our guest for this special interview is Mr. B. Shanker Jaiswal, who serves as the Joint Commissioner, Technology, Cyber and Licensing in Delhi Police. He is a member of the Indian Police Service, IPS. He is a BTech from IIT Kanpur and MS Research from IIT Delhi. And he pursues his interest in cybercrime prevention, detection, and use of emerging digital technologies for solving practical policing problems. Welcome, Mr. Jaiswal.
Thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to your insightful question.
What is predictive policing using AI and ML?
So, just I want to give a background. Recently, I finished my MS research from IIT Delhi, and the topic of my MS thesis was predictive policing using AI and ML, which is artificial intelligence and machine learning. And as part of my thesis, I published two papers which were in the areas of crime prediction using artificial intelligence. And those two papers, they talk about how to predict crime using crime data of past several years, and using that prediction for predictive deployment, or we call it adaptive deployment, so that we can reduce crime as much as possible. So that is a predictive policing in a nutshell. I'll just show you the definition. Basically, predictive policing comes from predictive analytics, which is the core computer science and AI area. But when we use predictive analytics for crime prediction, we call it predictive policing. And predictive analytics basically use data, algorithm, and huge amount of computing resources. And by doing that, we make a prediction about future. To tell you the truth, it is not prediction per se, it is rather forecasting. But in literature, prediction word has stuck, and mostly people are using predictive policing.
So what is predictive analytics, and why is it important for law enforcement?
Yeah. So first of all, why we are talking about predictive analytics these days? Why we were not talking about earlier? So there's a reason for that. Now we are in the at a cusp of technological development. We call it an inflection point where a lot of data is being created. Number one, a lot of computing resources are easily available. And number three, very smart algorithms have been developed by way of AI and machine learning. Very smart algorithm of convolutional neural network has been developed. And due to these three streams which have merged together at this juncture of time, we have a lot of opportunities in terms of making worthwhile prediction, worthwhile forecast about crime, where and when a particular kind of crime can happen. With that knowledge, we can make our deployment limited resources which we have. We can deploy that resources based on those recommendations. And it has been found through experimentation and through randomized controlled trial that it works well. Over the period of time, there is a significant reduction in crime if we follow a recommendation given by AI, which finds pattern in last several years of crime data. So where we use this in policing, so of course, crime prediction itself is a big area, but that is used for predictive deployment, or we call it adaptive deployment. But this can be used not only for prevention of street crime, but also for terrorist events, which are not very large in number, but such kind of algorithms have been developed these days, which acts on small data also. Events which are very small in number, even those events can also be predicted. Even modus operandi of gangs can also be predicted. Repeat offenders, oftentimes what we find that a large chunk of crimes are committed by repeat offenders. If we are able to predict their behavior, perhaps we can reduce crime drastically, particularly criminals who come out of jail either on parole or furlough, or those who complete their sentence and are released from jail. Even those subjects can also be, in a way, some kind of prediction can be made about them, whether they are likely to commit crime again or not. So that kind of thing is also possible. This can also be used in border management. Risk can be also be profiled, and risk can also be predicted. Suppose a police team is going for a certain operation, what is the likelihood of success in that operation? What are the risks involved? Whether there can be an ambush, whether there can be some attack, all those things can be predicted based on history of such incident in past, based on the analysis of other kinds of data, weather data, terrain data, data of socioeconomic realities. All these things can go into prediction. Crime supervision and prosecution is also drastically improved with the help of such kind of prediction. And as I said, jail and bail releases and gang activity can also be predicted.
So what you have told me, this means that this is basically a data analytics thing. And AI and you are collecting a lot of data and using AI and ML to analyze that data to predict what can happen in the future.
Exactly, exactly. This was one of the algorithm which I developed as part of my MS thesis, and I gave this a nickname of Geodome. And the block diagram, if you see here, so if I develop a model, a crime prediction model, that model works on historical data. Basically, we call it training on historical data. Historical data means data of last 3 years or 5 years, depending on how much data you have. And by training, you make a model. Once you have trained your algorithm, it becomes a model, and it's called, that model can be downloaded, that can be shared with anyone. Once after training, a model has been created, that model can be used for prediction. So suppose I want to, I give an example, in a city like Delhi, I have a data of last 4 or 5 years. I have trained my model. Now for next year, let's say 2025, starting from January, I will make prediction for every day, every shift I can make prediction. And that prediction comes from this model, which has been trained for data of last 4 or 5 years, crime data of last 4 or 5 years. And that prediction can be compared with the actual occurrence of crime. And if there are a good number of matches, we say that our model is working well. So that is the whole idea behind that. And after making prediction, what exactly we do with that? We basically make our deployment aligned with that prediction. And it has been found through many randomized control trials. In Los Angeles, it was done. There was 17% reduction in burglary. So even if you compare 6 months of previous year and current year, you will find there's a drastic reduction. If you compare 6 months, first half and second half of the year, with and without use of predictive policing, you see the substantial difference in terms of crime reduction. So this is the beauty of a crime prediction model. Yeah.
Now, this is using a lot of AI and other technologies and data analytics. So is it possible for some criminal elements with a large amount of resources to actually hack the system and make a prediction in an area where the crime is not going to occur? And while they do get away with their criminal activities in some other area. Is that possible? So should we have a lot of cybersecurity with this or some other forms so that this kind of scenario doesn't develop?
So what I understood from your question is that, first of all, where it can be applied, right? And how do we apply this in a city like, say, a city like Delhi, for example, or for that matter, any city? So first of all, these models have been developed for city areas, urban areas, right? Because urban areas have a high density of crimes compared to rural areas, compared to hinterland, maybe countryside. If the crime happens in a closed area and compact areas, it gives a lot of data. And lot of data means some patterns are hidden in those data. So it is such kind of algorithm works very well if you have a voluminous crime, right? High volume of crime. But that doesn't mean that there are no algorithms for crimes where the crimes occurrence is very sparse. We call it a sparse occurrence. So for that, there's a different set of algorithms. But my research so far has been on crime, high density crime and high volume crime, and particularly street crimes, robbery, snatching, burglary, theft, motor vehicle theft, pickpocketing, that kind of crime, which is very much predictable. Otherwise, also 10 years back, when AI machine learning was not such a buzzword, even that at that time also people were using hotspot policing, by which we used to find out the hotspot, which are the crime, where the crime is concentrating. And based on that, we used to make deployment. But those hotspots were not a very accurate picture of the ground reality, because hotspots are also dynamic in nature. They keep on shifting. They are
Yes.
called
Yes.
something called transient hotspot. Hotspot will suddenly emerge in some area, and it will vanish after some days. So we have to be very up to date in capturing the recent trends, and that is quite beautifully possible through such kind of models. It captures the long-term average, and it also captures the real recent trend, recent triggering events. So that is the basically whole idea of
Yeah.
doing testing such kind of models in urban areas.
Can you further elaborate on how disciplines like predictive analytics, predictive law enforcement, security science, computational criminology interact with each other in this system?
Okay, so if you see this Venn diagram, so basically the largest Venn diagram is data analytics, which all of us are aware is a discipline of computer science, and a smaller circle is predictive analytics. When we use data analytics for prediction or for forecast, we call it predictive analytics. And within that, there's another smaller circle called predictive law enforcement or predictive policing. So when we apply predictive analytics for policing domain, it is predictive policing. Now, which are the disciplines which are responsible in this? So it draws on from three distinct fields. One is security science, which any law enforcement officer they are supposed to be trained in. We, as part of our basic training, we were trained in security science. There's another discipline, predictive analytics. I just talked about that in the previous slide. And third is computational criminology. So, every law enforcement officer is also trained in criminology. And there is a branch of criminology which basically which talks about computational aspect of criminology, by which we basically, in a way, if you ask me what is predictive law enforcement, I would say computational criminology. So basically, criminology is an intersection of criminology and computer science, right? So there's a branch of criminology called environmental criminology, in which we try to understand crime occurrence based on environment. The previous paradigm was linking crime to biological, sociological, or psychological traits of a criminal or maybe a person. But later people realized that it's not only biological, sociological, or psychological aspect, but also the environment, which makes a huge difference in terms of propensity of a person towards commission of crime. So a person who is in a very good environment may not commit crime, but put in a very particular kind of environment, he develops a propensity for committing crime. So that's why we find in certain areas, certain socioeconomic conditions, there's a lot of prevalence of crime. This is more because of environmental criminology. And there's something called broken window syndrome, because if you find small violations, small crimes happening in certain area, it will give rise to bigger crimes, like broken window syndrome, right? So now that's coming to next point is that predictive analytics draws from different aspects of computer science: data mining, machine learning, deep learning, artificial intelligence, point process, social network analytics, information retrieval, cloud computing, Internet of Things. Every branch of computer science, adds and contributes towards predictive analytics. And I'm just adding further where all it has been used. In US, in many cities, many states are using it. And UK also, this has been tried. In Kent, police has used it. And fundamentally, you mentioned, okay, what kind of technology is relevant. So basically, nowadays, this emergence of neural network, artificial neural network, this has been very gainfully employed for refining the accuracy, for improving the accuracy. So is it only a question of accuracy? Because 10 years back, we were doing such kind of prediction, but our accuracy was very poor. We were not making very good prediction, very good forecast.
Yes.
But now we are making very fine-tuned and granular and good forecast, which is very much matching with the ground truth. And that's why such kind of approach is, drawing so much traction. And so basically it's an analogy from brain, and this is a simple neural network, and this is deep neural network, and this is the convolutional neural network which was used in my algorithm. I developed two algorithms I said in the beginning. One is geodome, another is deep point. I'll talk about that. So in deep point, I use convolutional neural network. So the first algorithm which I developed was geodome, and that was published in a Japanese conference. And the second was in US conference, that was a deep point. And I just, since you asked me how we do it, how exactly we do using AI and machine learning, I think this will explain you, this slide, what kind of data we use for making prediction. So as you know, crime is a spatio-temporal phenomena. Crime happens in space and time. So whenever we ask a question, a crime has occurred, a crime has happened, we always ask two questions, where and when. Of course, we always talk about who is the victim and who is the offender. But
Yes.
two questions are immediately asked. So anything which is related to space, anything which is related to time, and which has some bearing on occurrence of crimes, can be listed as the probable variables which can impact crime. So that list can be very long. I mean, here we have listed some attributes, some variables, but this is just illustrative in nature. Even social network variables also we have taken. And as I said, this is a block diagram by which we train the model, and then we test the model, we make prediction. And mathematically, what exactly we do? Basically, we try to find what is the crime intensity, what is the probability of occurrence of a particular type of crime, and we plot entire space with the crime density. And that density is a very dynamic in nature, keep on shifting with time, right? This is not static. And it is not possible to always find the highest possible probability, because that is a mathematically not a feasible proposition, because algorithm has to run hundreds of times, several iterations, 200 iterations, then only we get the final optimal value. So absolute maximum is not possible, but optimum maximum we can always find out. So at the end of this whole training and then testing, we get recommendation in terms of some locations in a city where the crime of particular type is most likely to happen. And those locations could be depending on the size of the city and how much resources we have. For a city like Delhi, it can be per day, it can be 1,000 locations, right?
Yes.
We have 200 police stations, or 200 odd police stations. So roughly 5 on average per police station. We can pinpoint. These are the 5 locations in a police station where our officers are supposed to give maximum, emphasis in terms of mobile patrolling. And those locations would not be very large area. They can be as big as 150 meter by 150 meter, not very large, which is pretty manageable in terms of patrolling. Literally, you can prevent crime, so much so that literally you can prevent crime. If you have patrol unit there, you can prevent crime. So that's how it works. In a day, you will not find any difference. You may get a match or no match. You can get a partial match, because actual occurrence of crime can always match with the prediction. But over the period of time, let's say over the period of 6 months, you'll find a substantive difference in terms of your approach. If you do use this model, you'll find substantive reduction. If you don't use the model, you will see the difference. So this is something which can be experimented, which can be tested, which can be validated on ground. This has been done elsewhere, so, and it has worked elsewhere, so will it work here also. So in a city like Delhi, for example, we can get these red dots. These red dots are basically squares, are basically 150 meter by 150 meter size grids. So the number of such grid cells could be close to 1 lakh. You can't man all those 1 lakh grid cells, right? And we all know there's something called law of crime concentration. Law of crime concentration says in any city area, 90% of crime are concentrated in 10% of area. This is given by Mr. Wageword. Professor Wageword gave this law in 2015, and he gave this empirical law using the analysis of data of many cities and their crime data, big cities, small cities, and that's how he came out with law. Law means it applies everywhere. That's why it's law. And even 30% crime can be limited to 1% of city area. So in predictive policing, we restrict ourselves to 1% of city area, and we try to address those 30% crime. So you may ask this question, what about 70% crime? Of course, 70% crime can be addressed through other means of policing. There are many other means of policing. We do regular patrolling. We do, I'm not saying you mobilize all resources to this prediction. You give some resources to what I predict. Remaining resources you do use as the way you wanted to use, as per the established practice, and that will take care of whole city. But give some special weightage to these these recommendations, let's say 1,000 such points, that will take care of 30% of crime, and it will reduce. So if you see the difference through plot also, if you use the traditional method, the blue curve will not give you very high accuracy. The red curve gives you very high accuracy, which is using modern AI-based algorithms. And Los Angeles Police Department, they have used this, and they got 17% reduction in burglary. And the first algorithm was based on a model which is purely in mathematical nature, not exactly AI was used, but some kind of mathematical model was used. And that was used in earthquake prediction also, and that was used also in epidemic prediction. But this model, the deep point algorithm, is purely AI-based model. Here I have used convolutional neural network. And here, since I have got a ready access of data of New York Police Department, and since they are using such kind of models, so their data is very much up to date for last 20 years. And I use New York census data also. And combining these two data, I try to make prediction based on using convolutional neural network. And this is the kind of variable they have. If they have census data, can also be linked to crime prediction. If you have a good census data, granular level census data linked to each and every cell, a grid cell of the size of 150 meter by 150 meter, then your predictive accuracy will go up drastically. So this is the kind of Python. In Python, the data looks like this, and the data has been ingested in Python program. And this is I did for Bengaluru also, and Chicago Police Department. And this is the kind of variable. And this is the program which this is sample data of New York Police Department. Okay. And this is the program which I wrote in Python. And this is for convolutional neural network. And this is the block diagram of deep point, how exactly census data and crime data was combined together. And using a mathematical model and also convolutional neural network, I came out with this predictive model. So this is another way of looking at it. And
so if India has to bring this system, we need really advanced cyber technology, AI, ML, plus network of cameras, video cameras, and lot of other trained staff. So it will be really difficult. I think it will be very time taking for us.
Yeah.
So we have the infrastructure for doing this, because this seems yes, quite good enough system.
Yeah. So I answer your question. This data-driven approach has reduced the gap between Western worlds and a country like India. Earlier, when we were not using data-driven model, there was a large gap, because then the knowledge of the discipline was very relevant. Your understanding of the domain was very relevant. And dynamics of the occurrence of crime was very relevant. How to model crime occurrence. But now with data-driven model, all you need is data, number one. Number two, computing resource. And number three, some very good smart models. These are three things you require. Luckily, we have a lot of data, because we are in data deluge, so we have a lot of data. So data is not a problem. Yeah, there's some issue with data, because location coordinate is very much important for making any crime prediction. So location coordinates means latitude and longitude. somehow we need to work on this area, because we have to train our staff to capture latitude and longitude on the spot itself. This is quite possible because nowadays all the mobile applications, there are many applications which can capture latitude, longitude very easily. But now that understanding, that realization should be there, that the IO should understand that by capturing this latitude, longitude, they are contributing in the making the data set very, very relevant and very much amenable for using into AI model. So that is one. Second is computing resource. There's no dearth of computing resource. And luckily for crime data, it's not a big data of that kind, the way we see in computer vision or maybe video analytics. So the data compared to video analytics is pretty, manageable here. So computing resource of the very extreme kind, it won't be required. And third is smart algorithms, powerful algorithms. These algorithms are accessible these days. Many models are available on the internet also, and people are developing such models on the fly. So all these three things are there. Now, what is missing? What we have to do is that any AI based model, any AI based experiment start with data. Any researcher, any developer first looks at what kind of data it has. Then only the developer or programmer or researcher will develop some model and test it. So first we have to work on data. We have to do the data pre-processing. We have to make it in such a way that the data supply is continuous, and at least the accuracy and of the data is reasonable, 90% or something, 10% can be worked upon. So that is first. So we have all the wherewithal in India to do the things. And as I said, the gap between the Western worlds who are leading this research has very much reduced by the fact that all the three criteria, three ingredients are very much available here because it is data-driven model, right? So yeah. So
I think some kind of reforms and operational method, new operational methods would also be required to implement this system.
yeah, so actually we have tried this. It's not that police agency in India is not trying, because this is the latest innovations, and many city police, they are trying predictive policing. But as you know, this is the new area, and it's not that such applications have not been developed. There's one application called CMAP, crime mapping analysis and prediction system, that has been developed by CDAC Hyderabad. And that was, and in Delhi police also we tried that application. But the time has changed, and innovation is happening at very fast speed. So we need to update. We need to go for the next level. We tried. We have tried. We had a project called Predictive Policing. We were looking for some good solution, and the process still going on. We had gone for bidding process. Somehow that bidding could not succeed. We could not get a very good OEM to give us a very good solution. But maybe in next attempt, perhaps we might get a good solution. But idea is that we are seed of this matter. We very much realize that such kind of application should be there. And Delhi police is also trying. Other city police, they are also trying. I think it's a progression in time. Maybe some more, realization will happen. Then what kind of solutions are possible? Even if the solution providers are also coming to terms with it, because when we put our request that we want solution of this kind, they also come to know that this is the requirement of law enforcement community. So they will come out with a better solution. So it's a matter of time that we will definitely have such kind of solution in which will be really useful. But as of now, we are in the process.
I think if the data, environmental data and the fire-related data, these kind of data also included in the system, that it can be expanded further.
Exactly.
For saving people from environmental disasters, fires, or other kinds of accidents, even road accidents. A lot of road accidents are happening. I think that would be a major area where this data can be used. Which areas the road accidents are likely to happen.
Road accident can also be predicted. In fact,
Yes.
that is a very good case study for making such kind of product acceptable. Because predicting accidents are something which can be very much linked to actual data. And
Yes.
you every day you see how many roads accidents are happening. If you are able to make a very good prediction, and that it can be tested and validated and verified on ground on day-to-day basis, perhaps that will prove the efficacy of such kind of predictive models. And it's not the matter doesn't end here, because once you are able to make prediction, you can work on that prediction. You can do something, take some measures. Suppose it's a road accident, you do more enforcement, you do more challan, you do more regulations, you do more road engineering there. You educate people over there, make them more aware of the things. And then you can see the feedback. If the road accidents have stopped, if road accidents start reducing in that area, it means that our system is working. Our measures which we have taken, they are effective. So it's a kind of a recommendation for taking action also. So by doing this, we can reduce fatality, we can reduce accidents, and that's the whole purpose of this predictive model. And likewise in crime also, we can reduce crime drastically, as it has been evidenced in many cities.
I think this can be connected with the online map systems like Google Maps and other systems.
Exactly.
Which also use technology to predict 5 to 10 minutes in advance where the traffic will be, or 30 minutes in advance.
Exactly. We can dovetail the crime prediction model on GIS platform, and the recommendation to all officers can be given on their mobile on GIS map.
Yes.
At the end of the day, when we make prediction, what kind of prediction is that? It is just some lat longs. Suppose I am making 1,000 locations, I'll give the midpoint of 1,000 locations. I will disseminate that information to our officers, whether it's SHO or ACP or DCP, depending on their area of operation, their jurisdiction. I can supply those coordinates in a beautiful app, highly customized app, and they can see all the points where they need to mobilize the resources for particular kind of crime. So for different kind of crimes, different kind of recommendations can be given, and this will happen automatically, because I can program it. Every shift, the system will churn out some new locations for each kind of crimes, and those locations can be automatically delivered on their mobile. So SHO going for next shift will have very clear picture which are the locations he is supposed to give more emphasis in terms of patrolling. It's not that they have to 100% go by what is recommended. They can, of course, go for whatever they feel like. I mean, they can just follow their own, their own insight and their own gut feeling. If they have some other difference, they can, of course, follow that. But at least they can religiously, they can give some extra weightage to the recommendation which have been given by the system. Maybe 20% more time in patrolling, good enough. Even 20-30% more time patrolling in those recommended area will work wonder over the period of time, because that extra time will happen with some surprise element, and that's why wherever it has been tried, it has never been said that you should give 100% patrolling time in those recommended area. No, not at all. Even 30% has worked so well. But again, those time windows will be accurately recommended. So that's how it is. In policing, crime reduction have got many different approaches, right? So this predictive policing is one model. There are other models also, right? Community policing also a model by which we can reduce crime. We engage with community, we work with community, we jointly try to address and reduce crime by developing intelligence and giving a message to criminal elements. Look, law enforcement community and citizens are together. So that is also a way of controlling crime. Likewise, root cause policing, addressing the root cause. If sometimes socioeconomic aspects would be at the core of, at the heart of criminal incidents. So those things can also be addressed, but that is a long duration process. It will not happen overnight. So there are many ways in which we can control crime, but predictive policing, which earlier we used to say hotspot policing, now we call it predictive policing, because we are making very pinpointed prediction and forecasting, and we follow those forecasts for adaptive deployment.
Thank you, Mr. Jaiswal.